Hey guys, Mr. Thibodeau here. Let's jump into our work. So this is a pretty interesting section, consumer interest. Okay, consumer interest is talking about the interest that you guys and I have to pay, and it is quite a big deal. This is something I don't think I even was really taught in high school, and you guys are really learning about it now. So that's pretty cool. First off, let's talk about the numbers here. 7% interest is extraordinarily high. I think that's double what I pay currently. Our interest rates in America are extremely low, and the reason for that was to really help the economy grow. We're now slowly starting to increase interest. In fact, as I talk to you guys, I believe the federal government, is raising interest rates by, I think, half a point, so 0.5%. And that's the biggest hike they've had in like 30 years, okay? Our interest rates are extraordinarily low, and even with the federal government raising interest rates to help slow inflation, it's still nowhere near this, okay? 7% interest rate is really, really high. The issue with this, let's just talk about the math. We won't talk about actual practical. We won't talk about the actual American economy right now. Instead, the mortgage here, right, 7% is adding to 300,000 every single year. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's jump over to a calculator. I don't mind you using a calculator for this, by the way. It's perfectly fine. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's, yeah. Okay, so here is our principal, right? Now, we are going to times this by 1.07. Now, why are we timesing it by 1.07? If we times this by 0.07, that will give us just the interest, okay, which is $21,000, okay, $21,000. That's a lot. That alone, right there, is close to half of what Mr. Thibodeau makes every year. That's a lot of money. And that's just the interest, okay? That's not how much you're paying to get it lower. That's just the interest on the amount that we would grow by, okay? So if we were to take this and then we added that 300,000 back, would be your new loan amount, okay? That's bigger. You don't want the amount you owe to grow. You want it to go down each year. So if you are spending about $2,000 every month, or $24,000 each year, okay, now your total interest, your total amount that you owe, has gone down, okay? That's with spending about $2,000 on your mortgage each year, which is what Mr. Thibodeau spends, or roughly about what Mr. Thibodeau spends on his mortgage every year. Now, eventually you will pay this off, right? It's getting lower, and the cool thing about it is spending $2,000 each year does very little to pay it off in the beginning. In the beginning, this only went down by $3,000. You spent $24,000, and this number only went down by $3,000. That's pretty sad. What happens, though, is as this number gets lower, right, then that 0.07 number also gets lower. And as that number gets lower, the amount you're spending each month doesn't change. You're spending $2,000 each month. So eventually you're going to start paying off more and more and more of your initial payment, okay, of your principal. Principal is the initial $300,000 or whatever's left of it, okay? So that's basically how a mortgage works, except again, 7% is insanely high. Fixed interest is important. The financial crisis in 2008 really happened because their interest wasn't fixed. The interest rate fluctuated with the market. And so some people ended up, the interest rates spiked really high in 2008 during the financial crisis. And when they did that, that meant that people were owing more money for their house than their house was worth. That was called being underwater, where you have to spend more money than you could possibly pay because your interest had gone so high. So definitely, absolutely try and always make sure you have a fixed interest. You do not want your interest to go higher than what you expect it to be. That would be insane. That would be terrible for you. Okay. It takes, if you are spending that $2,000 for that $300,000 loan, after 30 years, the total amount paid is $720,000. Okay? That means that you have spent more than double what the house was originally worth. Okay? Now, maybe your house has increased in value and maybe you have made that money. Okay? I don't know. But chances are, I mean, it's not unheard of for a house to double in value in 30 years. That's fine. So maybe your house has increased in value and it's not too bad of a loss. But generally, if you are spending, and again, 7% is an insanely high number of interest in our current era. Generally, though, it is important to pay more to the more you pay early on, the less you pay in all. Okay. If Mr. Thibodeau started by spending $4,000 every month instead of $2,000, okay, and he did that for the first 15 years of his loan, he would probably be done, way earlier. He would be done in 15 years, okay, as opposed to spending 30 years. And he would spend way less money in the total, than if he tried to spend $4,000 in the last 15 years, okay? Because he will have been lowering that initial principal, and then the interest on that initial money will have gone down. Sorry. Auto loans. Auto loans are a big sort of deal, okay? They will talk about how you can buy a brand new car for $200 a month, okay? And that sounds pretty good, $200 a month for an absolutely brand new car with all the features. The problem with that is a brand new car might cost $20,000, $30,000, okay? But if you are having to borrow a lot of money at a pretty high interest rate, you will, much like over here, you will be spending way more money than when you than if you were to just buy it outright. Okay, the interest rates for cars are pretty high, and they will give you a very low monthly payment, specifically trying to get it so that way you are spending money for, like, say 60 months, okay, many years, in order to finally pay all of that back. Okay. I think oftentimes it's more than $4,000. I think if this textbook were updated, I think these two things would be flipped. Auto loans are kind of the really worrisome loans right now. These are the ones that people are really spending far more money. My brother used to work as a car dealer, and he would say, yeah, we would double our money just by financing. Financing brings in so much more money than selling the car to begin with. Okay, which is why car dealerships really want to finance a car to you. They do not like it when you just go in there and you buy a car in cash. If you save up your money until you have the $20,000 and then you buy your car, you will be saving so much money. Okay. Um, and realistically, you'd be saving more than the $4,000. Okay. The auto loans generally are, the monthly payments are usually only like $200. And so it takes way longer to pay them back. Okay. Credit card interest. This used to be, especially for my parents' lifetime, this used to be, it's now illegal in some places. What they used to do with this is your interest. So in this example, right, his interest is 2%, which is insanely low for a credit card. Oftentimes they're like 4% or 5%. They might start off at 0% for the first year, but then they really hike up. In any case, what was happening before was that you would have a minimum payment of $50 and you would have this interest rate, and you would pay it down, except you would not pay off more than the interest rate. The interest itself would be more than your minimum balance, which minimum payment, which meant that if you just paid the minimum, you would be paying the minimum forever. You would never get out of credit card debt. Okay, that was a huge deal in the 90s and early 2000s. People were in massive amounts of debt because they were paying the minimum, which is what they were allowed to do, and they were never able to actually pay off the amount of money they had. Okay. When we're actually talking about these interest rates, at least for this, I'm going to do these practice sets for you. So if none of this made sense because Mr. Thibodeau talked a lot about real world problems instead of the math problems, just go ahead and watch the practice set, and I'll actually do what's here. The main thing to know is do your math. This is really important math in the real world. Do your math before you buy a house or before you buy a car, okay? Or when you look at a credit card. Try very hard to never have to pay off your balance every month for your credit card. Credit cards in particular have a very high interest rate. The interest rates on credit cards are way higher than they are for homes, and way higher than they are for cars. The credit cards have the highest interest rate, and as such, you really want to make sure that you are not being charged that interest. It gets really expensive. Okay. I will switch over to the practice set. Anyway, have a good one, my dudes.